Well, everyone, today's the day. Today is the premiere of Superman, essentially. Today is where all theaters are going to be opening up their doors to allow people to come in and see Superman. Now, tomorrow is technically the official release date, but the early premieres, the quote-unquote midnight releases, happen today, and I will be on my way here in just a few hours to finally see Superman. Now, I know a bunch of you have already gone and seen it, but what I wanted to do today, before I go see it, is to take a look at some of the reviews. Just some of them. I don't want to go over all of them. Now, the other day, I did a little live reaction of the social media reactions. That was a lot of fun. I had fun doing that. But I want to look at the reviews. I want to see the tomato meter. I want to see what people are saying about this movie. The reason for that is there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of misconstrued ideas of what's going on with this film. But the one thing that I want to do before or after I do that, before I go see this movie, is I finally want to I want to hear somebody's thoughts, which I know you all want me to do. I know a lot of my viewers want to know what I think of Aaron Fisher's thoughts on the movie. Now, I'm not going to listen to his spoiler review. He did a review, a non-spoiler and a spoiler review. I'm not going to listen to his spoiler review, but I want to pull up his first review, his first reactions to the film, and I'm going to kind of just listen. I haven't heard him yet. I haven't listened to it. I haven't. Basically, I know he's spinning out of control. I saw his reactions on Twitter, but I just kind of want to get his take on the film at this point in time. So first, let's pull up the tomato meter, the Rotten Tomatoes of it all, right? I get it. Look, Rotten Tomatoes is one of those things, and I agree. We should not be sitting here saying, let's take Rotten Tomatoes and the tomato meter and call it gospel. No. But the tomato meter is a nice gauge of kind of what's going on in the audience's eyes. All right. Now, as you see critically, it actually, when the reviews first came out, it premiered with a 91% on the Critic tomato meter, but that was with like 50 some reviews. Up to 219 reviews on the critic side, it's down to about an 84%. If you remember, if you're somebody who watches my live shows on Monday, I said that I think that critically it's going to be around 81%, 80%, like the low 80s is what I was kind of saying critically. And then I said for the fan side, I figured it was going to be high 80s when it all is said and done. As of right now, fan-wise, it's at 96%. That's the general audience. That's the popcorn meter. Now, what is really, really interesting about this, that's 1,000+ verified ratings. All right? There's a lot of people who are like, well, the movie isn't even out yet. How are their ratings? Well, no, the movie isn't officially, remember, the official release date is tomorrow. Monday, there was the red carpet premiere. Tuesday was the Amazon Prime event. Yesterday, it started opening in various locations around the world. Let's also not forget that over the last few weeks, they had little pop-up events with YouTubers, with personalities from TikTok and influencers and things like that. A lot of them don't fall in the critic side of things. A lot of them would fall in the general audience and the popcorn meter. So what I want to make sure people understand is a lot of the ratings on the popcorn meter are absolutely fans. They are. They're the ones who are absolutely seeing this movie as soon as possible because they want to see it, and they absolutely are excited to talk about this film. But with that, there were absolutely those who wanted to hate on this movie immediately. People who were very skeptical about it, the haters, the naysayers, the ones that want to see James Gunn and the DCU fail, who went and saw this. But it very much swayed towards the fans, the ones who were really diehard for wanting this to be successful. So that 96%, while that is fantastic, it's exciting. And I tell you what, the general audience who sees this, the general audience who sees the 84 and the 96% prior to Friday, prior to Saturday, prior to Sunday, that it may help sway them to go see it, this is a great sign. But like I said, when all is said and done, when you're talking about maybe by Monday, Tuesday next week, when we get more verified ratings, more reviews in there from critics and the audience, I think it's going to drop a little bit. But that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. That doesn't mean it's going to drop so drastically. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that it's going to drop down to the 50s and the 60s. No, I really believe that critically it's only going to be down to like a low 80s, and I think high 80s for the fan ratings. I think that's what it's going to be. That's not a bad thing. That's me not have seen the movie yet. My opinion on that could completely change when I go see it in just a few hours. But that's kind of what my feeling has been, because that's kind of how James Gunn movies are. And that's fine. That's not a bad thing. If there was ever an expectation that this movie was going to be loved by everybody, that's just wild and ridiculous. Now, let's take a look at a few of the critic reviews real quick. Richard Krause says it would be easy to be cynical about a movie that wears its heart on its sleeve as loudly and proudly as Superman does, but its emphasis on optimism over angst is a timely and welcome message filtered through the nostalgic lens of vintage comic book. I love it. That's one thing that we hear over and over again in these reviews, is that it just feels like a comic book movie. And that's exciting to me. That's exciting to me. Next, I want to take a not-so-fresh one. Sean Burns from W. Burrs Arts and Culture. Bloody exhausting, even for people who care about this kind of thing. Well, that's not too exciting, no. Brent Hankins, The Lamplight Review. Gunn understands that the character's power isn't just in flight or strength, but in compassion and conviction, and a stubborn belief that the world can be a better place, and that we all have a role to play in making it that way. I like that. Stephen Porzio from Joe.ie. Gunn has delivered a crowd-pleasing, almost sure-to-be blockbuster that faithfully brings the character to the screen while placing him into exciting and dramatically rich new territory. Perfect, guys. It's perfect. Gabriel Meza from Fiero de Foco. James Gunn tries to give the Man of Steel a heart and a punchline. The heart works. The punchline punches back. Andrea Chase, Killer Movie Reviews. James Gunn has mined the quintessence of what makes the superhero genre so rife with possibilities and forged a whiz-bang start to the franchise reboot. So this kind of brings me to some of the things that I've heard. Like I said, people have said a lot of times, like, this is a movie that's bringing the comic book to life. It's showing us what a comic book movie can and should be. Once again, I've heard a lot of people say it harkens back to like Spider-Man 2. It's kind of that feel of a movie. That excites me. I like hearing that. I like the fact that, look, we've gone so far one direction with comic book movies, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that wasn't the right move to do over the last decade or so. But sometimes going back to where it all started, going back to how things were at one point in time, can be a refreshing take. It can kind of just be like, oh yeah, this is nice. This is how superhero films were. This is how they can be. That's kind of nice. And that's what I'm hoping I get out of this movie. That's what and that's kind of what I'm hearing. And that's what I like to see. Josie Melendez, Cinema World Podcast. In the new age of DC, if the new age of DC is one that makes fun of women's intelligence, I don't want it. Sounds like a liberal. I don't know. That's the first time I've heard anything like that. I heard Lois was was portrayed very strong-willed and very intelligent. So are they talking about maybe Miss Tessmacher? I don't know. We'll see. I guess I'll see in the movie. Kyle Anderson from The Nerdist says Superman is a good movie, a great start to the DCU that addresses so many timely real-world issues. Legitimately, what else could you want? Honestly, nothing. I've been saying for how long that this movie needs to be a strong start to the DCU. This needs to be what gets people excited for what's to come from DC. Not just a Superman movie, but excited for what's to come, to want to see more from DC. So that's great to hear. Brittany Murphy from Muses of Media. Ultimately, I thought Superman was a mixed bag that had glimmers of goodness, but settled for just okay. I genuinely wish that I enjoyed it much more. That's unfortunate. Simon Foster from Screenspace. The DC relaunch needed to forge its own path, not play like the last few MCU hits. Warner Brothers wants you to believe it's a bold new vision, but Gunn's marketable eccentricity is as safe a bet as they could have made. That's unfortunate. All right. Verified audience, because that's what's really important, because these are the people that they verified actually went to see the movie, and these are the audience scores that actually affect the popcorn meter, just so you know. Alfredo says, now this is a Superman movie. Van says, giving it 4 stars, this movie definitely felt very comic book-like in a good way. Right from the start, you were immersed in a new world that already is full of established characters and lore. It's overwhelming at first, but as the movie goes on, it's a wonder to behold. The action scenes felt dynamic, the acting was good all across the board, and the portrayal of Superman was particularly inspiring. Now, I want to stop there, because that's one thing that I've heard also, is that some people going into this, they felt a little taken aback, kind of like, I don't know if I jive with this right now. It's a little jarring. It's a little different. And because of that difference, because they're so accustomed to what superhero films have been and what Superman has been over the last number of years, it took them a little bit to kind of fit into this new world, this new universe that James Gunn created for this. So the fact that it's kind of like that, but I've heard that once you buy into it, which it kind of happens around the end of the first act, I've heard. Once you buy into it, boom, you're in and you're running and you love it. So keep that in mind. Pat says, best Superman movie ever. Val says, great movie, so much action and great storyline. Glad we were able to see the Amazon premiere. Justin says, David Cornsweet is Superman. He fully embodies the character. I hope this is a long run as the Man of Steel. This film is fun and easily the most entertaining Superman movie yet. So there's some of the fans from the verified audience. Again, keep in mind that a lot of these verified audience ones are fans. These are people that wanted to see the movie. And obviously, these ones are a lot of positive. There are some negative ones there. So don't think there's not negative ones there. I encourage you to go check out Rotten Tomatoes. Go through some of these reviews, because some of them, there are some negative ones. See why they're negative. But beware, some people do like to spoil things. So regardless, I always tell people, see the movie yourself. Get the feel for the movie yourself. Okay, anyways, moving on to the last thing, or the other thing I want to talk about or look at. Look, I know I haven't seen the movie. And this is kind of why I want to do this before I see the movie. Because I kind of want to get an idea of what he felt after the film. So I know when I go into the movie and I come out, I can laugh about it. That's kind of how I am. It's just, look, I say all the time, like, I don't mind spoilers. I don't. I've seen a few spoilers that kind of I didn't want to be spoiled about before seeing the movie. But that's Twitter for you. It's unfortunate. A lot of the stuff I knew was going to pop up in the film. I just didn't want to see it until the movie, but I saw it, unfortunately, on Twitter. So hearing some of the things that he's going to say here, it is what it is. There's no spoilers, I don't think, because this is his review, and then I saw another video pop up that says spoiler review. So I don't think this has any spoilers in it. So I'm going to listen to it. If spoilers pop up, I will edit this and pull out the spoilers so none of you hear the spoilers. So don't worry about that. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's see what he has to say.
I don't even know where to start with this review. Now, this is probably going to be my most watched.
I mean, first off, to start with the review, just talk about the movie. Like, don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about how
video for a movie review on my channel ever. And
oh man, this should be my most watched video.
And
who cares?
Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. I did go into this movie as a complete blank slate.
No, you didn't.
In fact, I posted right before seeing the
film.
And I said, what's crazy about all of this is that this is a brand new Superman film. We haven't had one in 12 years, and I had no feelings towards it. None whatsoever. I didn't hate the fact that I was there. I wasn't excited to be there. I went in completely blank.
Okay. He went into this movie with no feelings on it. I don't know if you know this, but yeah, for the last how many months he's been trashing on this movie and saying how bad it's going to be and that he hoped it failed, didn't he?
Regardless of the studio that made it, the people that made it, and oh my gosh, we got to talk about this here. So, first of all, I want everybody to know Henry Cavill is not in the film. He is not Ultraman.
That's not a spoiler, guys.
There were so many people online saying he was going to be Ultraman. They swore it was going to be Henry Cavill.
Okay, first off, that was just speculation. Nobody actually believed that Henry Cavill was going to be in this movie. It was all speculation. Okay, that's all it was. It was only speculation.
This film does not address at all how the DCEU changes into the DCU. Does not address it in any way, shape, or form. Okay?
It wasn't never supposed to. James Gunn has addressed that change is going to be addressed in Peacemaker. But, again, he doesn't listen. All he does is bitch and complain about James Gunn and about the DCU. Instead of sitting there and listening and using his comprehension skills, all he wants to do is bitch and complain because my Snyderverse is gone. That's all he does.
I want to talk about the worst part of this film. The score is the most unmemorable superhero score I have ever heard. Ever. It was tonally all over the place. Like, there was no central theme. It was, in some scenes it would be like this, some scenes it would be like that. They would bring in the theme several different ways, and it was just nothing good about the score at all. And in fact, there's a scene in this movie with Mr. Terrific that should have had a score behind it, but instead James Gunn does his freaking music. He also does it with another very emotional scene, and I'm not going to tell you where it is, but he drops another song. He takes the most emotional and cool parts of the movie and he adds songs to it. Those two scenes needed a memorable score.
All right, first off, the score, I've listened to a few tracks. The score sounds really good. Am I going to sit there and say it sounds amazing? I got to listen to it a few more times, and I got to listen to it as a whole. All right, I've listened to just a few tracks. It sounds good. I also want to see it in context to the film. Is John Murphy and I can't remember what the other guy's name is right now. Are they Hans Zimmer? Are they John Williams? Are they James Horner? No, they're not at that level. They're not. But I'm expecting a decent score. But what he's freaking out about is James Gunn's style. And you're going into a James Gunn movie, so you should expect that James Gunn is going to do a James Gunn style. So he likes to do his quote-unquote needle drops at times, so he's going to probably have a couple needle drops in the movie. That's no different than saying J.J. Abrams with his lens flare. He loves his lens flares in his movies. So you're going to see lens flare in a J.J. Abrams movie. Zack Snyder with his slow motion. He's going to have it in his movies. I mean, it's things like that. That certain directors have certain little quirks about them that they love to put in their films. You should expect to see them. So if you go into a James Gunn movie and you should expect to see those things.
The score for this movie is non-existent. 0 out of 5. Okay? Here's what I did like. David Cornsweet, first of all, it's his birthday today. So happy birthday to David Cornsweet. He played a great Superman. I was totally not sold on him. He was great. He was awesome. And they did keep that scene in there where he flies through the snow, by the way.
Okay. I don't know how many times I have to tell people this. They never said they were removing the scene. Never said they were removing the scene. James Gunn never said, I'm removing the scene. The scene is being removed. He said that particular shot, that one, was incomplete, that there were incomplete VFX, that he was going to use a different shot, that kind of stuff. He never said that they were going to remove that scene. Like, why? I just
had some hope. When it first started, the first 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm going to dig this movie. This could end up being pretty cool. Like I said, I go in with a completely open mind. I wanted to have a good time. I wanted to love this movie. And then you start getting into the story, and oh my gosh. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but I did not like him as Lex. Everyone gave Eisenberg crap for the way he portrayed Lex. This, to me, is way worse. Lex is supposed to be a cold, calculating individual. In here, he's a brash, over-the-top, emotional. He does things at the spur of the moment. He's not cold and calculating. And they don't explain how he's able to do anything. He just does it. And it's really crazy the way they throw you into this. Like, you get no backstory on anybody. In fact, you have the whole Justice Gang thing. They don't talk about how they came about, and they're in the Hall of Justice. They don't even talk about how they came about.
All right. The reason for that is you're thrust into this world. You don't need an origin story for everything, especially in this first movie. You don't. Like, okay, look, I got to see the movie. I have to see the movie. Like, I really do. And maybe I shouldn't continue this because I need to see the movie, and then I can rebuttal him and go against some of the things he said. I don't know. I'm sitting here listening to him, and it's kind of angering me a little bit because he's saying things that are just like, really? Like, this is what you're going with here? Like, really? Like, your issues are just non-issues, according.
In fact, there's something he does with Superman's Kryptonian heritage that I think is like it's a black mark on no. If I was the head of DC and I saw somebody come in with this story, I would have said, nope, we're not doing that.
They've done it in lore in the past.
But he went there with it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but he did it. He changed the lore of Superman and his Kryptonian parents.
He's just ignoring
and I didn't like what they did at all. Okay, this film, tonally, because of all of this stuff in there, there's no identity to it. You got the goofy Justice Gang, you got the goofy dog, you got the serious, Lois and Clark. Oh, well, not even Clark. And let's talk about Clark for a minute, because Clark is only in the movie at the very beginning. And then you don't see Clark again the entire film.
Because it's a Superman movie.
So it's all about Superman. And Superman is in this enough. I don't know, we heard reports that he wasn't in it enough. Oh, he's definitely in it enough. But the tone of the film and the editing, nauseating, completely off. So at the end of the day, it takes you out of the film because you don't have a flow to it. You can't get invested in the characters because there's no backstory. You know nothing about them. They just throw you into everything. They throw you into this. They throw you into that. You go into this. And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he is obviously pretty upset about this movie. And who did you expect anything else, honestly? I think when I sit here, when I go and watch this film myself in just a few hours, I'm going to do an out-of-theater reaction. You'll see that up on there. And then later I will have a full spoiler review on the Watchtower and discussion on the Watchtower. Actually, yeah, I'll figure it out. But it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how this movie is compared to what he's saying. I just think that he didn't go in there with an open mind. He says he did, but we knew that this whole time he was going in there just looking for reasons to not like this movie. That's all he was doing. He was looking for reasons to think that it was too jokey, to think that the editing was bad, to think that the score was bad, to think, because those are all things that he's mentioned in posts on X and in his videos. Those were all things that he mentioned. So we knew that he was looking for those exact reasons, those exact things to not want to like this film. So yeah, everything he mentioned are all things that he's mentioned in the past on why he was not going to like this film. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on the reactions from Rotten Tomatoes, the score. Do they surprise you? Do you think they're going to drop lower? Where do you think they're going to land by the end of the weekend, by early next week? And honestly, have you seen the reports of what the box office will be? Where do you think the box office is going to end for domestic? Do you think it's going to end up like 100 million domestically, 150, higher end? What are you thinking? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. With all that said, guys, I will catch you all later.